trying to find the way to walk. Lord, I humble myself before thee. I don't want to be lost. I've been taught to search the scriptures and read the word of truth. Like you said, just like you promised, I'll be just like you. How can you hear to believe? Take the time out just to read. You will find that you've been wrong. Jesus is coming to his home to take his rest in Zion. You won't get to heaven. No, 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 no. Then I know it's true. 'Cause I'm ready. Yeah. All you got to do is just receive it. Yeah. Open up your Bible. You can read it.
Good evening, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another edition of the Bible Speak, where we teach you the Word of God by subjects and titles. The reason we do this is because you're able to get a clear understanding of your Bible, which is the Word of God. My name is Brother Jacob, and I'll be your teacher for this evening. Today, reading for me is Brother Curtis. Today's lesson is called the Lord's Passover. The Lord's Passover. Brothers and sisters, those, especially those that call themselves Christians, should know and should keep this feast day, the Passover, and should understand it as well, because it has everything to do with how Jesus, even Christ, how he have died for the entire creation by shedding his blood. And we're going to start this lesson off in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, in an attempt to give you a clear understanding about the Lord's Passover. Verse 1, go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord.
Now, these the feast of the Lord. He says, speaking to Israel concerning the feast of the Lords, not the feast of the Jews, not the feast of the Hebrews or the Israelites, the feast of the Lords. Go ahead and read.
Which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feasts.
Even these are my feasts. The Lord say these are my feasts as well. The holy convocations. That means you got to come together and have these feasts. Skip down to verse 4 and read that.
These are the feasts of the Lord.
He said it again. The feast of the Lords, not the Jews, not the Israelites, not the Hebrews. Go ahead and read.
Even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season.
Which you shall proclaim in their season. That means you got to keep them once a year. The seasons only comes around once a year. They don't come 2 times or 3. They come down once a year. He said the feast of the Lord. Go ahead and read.
In the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover.
In the 14th day of the first month is the Lord's Passover. The Lord's Passover. Now, let's go into Exodus, the 12th chapter, and let's go look and see when the Passover was first instituted with the same people that the Lord is telling Moses to speak unto the children of Israel. Exodus 12 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Now, whatever month it was, the Lord said, this is going to be the first of the month, first month of the year to you, Israel. Go ahead and read.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
So he told them on the 10th day of the first month, everybody got to get them a lamb. Skip down to verse 5. Go ahead and read.
Your lamb shall be without blemish and male of the first year.
Without blemish, it got to be a firstborn male of the first year. He said, without blemish, this lamb, brothers and sisters, represents Jesus. It has to be perfect. No blemishes, no deformities. It couldn't have sores on it. It had to be perfect. Go ahead and read.
You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats.
Go ahead and read.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
And he said, keep it up until the 14th day of the first month. Why? Because that's the Lord's Passover, and everybody shall kill it in the evening time. Go ahead and read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorpost of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
So then they had to take this blood of this lamb that they killed, and they had to put it on the 2 side posts of their houses and on the upper doorposts. Why they had to put the blood there, we're going to find out in just a moment. Go ahead and read.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread. And with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
So they had to eat the flesh of this lamb, roasted with fire, with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. Unleavened bread. See, unleavened represents without sin. That's bread that's still in its fat form. But bread that is risen, it is risen already. That represents leaven. He said, eat it with unleavened bread, and bitter herbs shall you eat it. Skip down to verse 10.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning, ye shall burn with fire.
He don't want none of this flesh left of this lamb. If anything left in the morning, he gonna have you to burn it with fire. That's what he say. Go ahead and read.
And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover.
Because it is the Lord's Passover. Eat it quickly. Staff in your hand, shoes on your feet. The Lord has been getting ready to bring Israel out of Egypt. He said it's the Lord's Passover. Go ahead and read.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment.
The Lord said, I'm finna come through Egypt and I'm finna execute judgment on all the gods. I'm gonna kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. He said, I am the Lord. Go ahead and read.
I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are.
Oh, he said the blood is gonna be for a token. It's gonna symbolize it's something. It's gonna symbolize. Go ahead and read.
And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
So he said when he see the blood, he gonna pass over. The Passover actually means pass over. When he see the blood, if you believe, you put the blood on your doorpost, and when he saw it, he passed over, and then he didn't come in and kill your firstborn. But if you didn't, then your firstborn died. Go ahead and read. How long we gonna keep this Passover?
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generation. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
Forever you got to keep the Passover. Forever, brothers and sisters. And once again, why did they have to put this blood on their doorposts? Skip down to verse 23 and read that.
For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you.
No, he said if you put the blood there, he saw it, he will pass over, and he would not send a destroyer in there to destroy you. That's if you have faith enough to put it there. One more time, how long do we have to keep the Passover? Go ahead and read.
And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever.
Forever you have to keep the Passover. Being that you have to keep the Passover forever, and forever has no end, brothers and sisters. Let's go skip down to less than 42 generations down the line when Jesus was on this earth in the flesh. And let's see if the Passover was still kept in his days. Matthew 26 and verse 17. 26 and 17. Go ahead and read.
Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
They asked Jesus, where do you want us to prepare the Passover so you can eat it? Let's see if Jesus told them, hey, we don't keep Passover no more. That's an old thing. Go ahead and read.
And he said, Go into the city to such a man and say unto him, The master saith, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples.
Now the Lord said he sent them to a man's house to tell the man that, guess what? I'm going to keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. Now let's see if the man gave them some sort of hassle and say, hey, no, we keep communion in my house. We don't do that Jew thing. Go ahead and read.
And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover.
They made ready the what? The Passover. The apostles didn't have no problem with the Passover. Jesus didn't have no problem with the Passover. The man of whom they prepared the Passover at his house didn't have no problem with it. Why is it that the world is not keeping this day to day, brothers and sisters? Verse 20, go ahead and read.
Now, when the evening was come, he sat down with the 12.
He sat down with the 12 at evening, because remember, on the 14th day of the first month, at evening is the Lord's Passover. His apostles and Jesus, they are keeping it to the letter, just like the Lord said. Skip down to verse 26 and read.
And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat. This is my body.
And I'm sure it was unleavened bread, because he told you with bitter herbs and unleavened bread, you had to eat the Passover with it. He said, eat, this is my body. Go ahead and read.
And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sin.
Then he gave them the wine. He said, drink ye all of it. He said, this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sin, brothers and sisters. Now, this brings a few questions here. First of all, What was the Old Testament, being that Jesus said that was a new one? That only implies that was an old one or a first testament. And why is it that he had to make a New Testament or a new agreement or a new covenant? Because that's what a testament is. Why is it that he had to do this? For the remission of sin. That means to have your sins taken away. This is what we have to, that's the question that arises with what Jesus said. But before we go any further with this lesson, brothers and sisters, we want to show you and let you know that the Passover have much more of a spiritual meaning than just killing lambs and putting blood on your houses, being that we don't do that today. It is much more than just drinking wine and eating unleavened bread. It has much more of a spiritual meaning. When we show you what the Lord is saying when he said, this is my flesh, eat it, and this is my blood, drink ye all of it. St. John 6 and verse 53. Go ahead and read.
Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you.
Because one of his apostles could have said, Lord, I pass on the unleavened bread. Lord, I pass on the wine. I just put the blood on my doorpost. He said, if you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. But this is what not big of a threat because, hey, I'm living with what he's telling me. I'm living. Skip down to verse 60. They didn't understand what he was saying. Go ahead and read.
Many, therefore, of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, this is a hard saying. Who can hear it?
Who understand what he's saying? Eat his flesh and drink his blood. They went physical. They thought it was my actual blood and flesh. That's a disgusting thing to me. Skip down to verse 63. He told them exactly what he's talking about. Go ahead and read.
It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing.
Oh, the spirit quickeneth, make you alive. So give me that spirit. Give me that spirit that makes you. He said the flesh profits you nothing. You eat his flesh or drink his blood, his actual blood, ain't going to profit you anything.
No, sir.
What is he talking about? Go ahead and read.
The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, they are life. That's what he was telling you to eat. That's what he likened his word to his blood, brothers and sisters. That's like what Israel did. When they killed that lamb, they put the blood there, represented his word. When he saw his word, he passed over, brothers and sisters. If you had faith in his word, and his word was to put the blood there. That was the first test of your faith. So now as we go further in this lesson, you will have a clear understanding of the Passover. It has much more of a spiritual meaning, the Lord's word. Hebrews, the 9th chapter, because we got to answer this question. What was the Old Testament or the First Testament, being that Jesus at the Passover said, this is my blood of the New Testament? Hebrews 9 and verse 16. Go ahead and read.
For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator.
Oh, so Jesus, in this case, Jesus is the testator. So he has to die. He said, this is my blood in the New Testament. So if where a testament is, there must be the death of the testator. So he had to die. He has to die because this is more like a will agreement. It's a will agreement. You know, a will is a legal document someone has written up. And in this document, it states who's going to receive their possessions or their property or whatever. But guess what? The person don't get it until he die, right?
That's
Go ahead and read. Go ahead.
For a testament is of force after men are dead.
A testament is of force after men are dead. After men are dead. So Jesus had to die with this testament here. Go ahead and read.
Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth.
Otherwise, it is no strength at all while the testator live. He has to die in order for it to go into the fact, just like the one that's got the will. That's written in the will. He can't get nothing until this person die. This person may live 10, 20, 50 years. He can't get nothing until the person die. This testament is not going to go into force until Jesus died, brothers and sisters. Go ahead and read.
Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood.
He said neither the first. Now here's Paul indicating that there was a first testament or either an Old Testament. What was this Old Testament or this first testament, this first agreement or this first covenant that something died in for it to go into effect? Let's go back and look at it. Let's go to Exodus, the 20th chapter. Exodus 20, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Exodus 21, this is the Lord when he brought Israel out of Egypt. And he was speaking the commandments to the whole entire nation in their ears. Everybody heard him. Verse 1, go ahead and read.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Lord said, I'm the one that brought you out. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Then the Lord went into his commandments. He went into his law. He told him, thou shalt not. But for the sake of time, we're not going to read all of the commandments. We're going to skip down to verse 15 because remember, everybody is hearing the Lord speak these commandments in their own ears. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
You ain't supposed to lie on your neighbor. You ain't supposed to steal. The Lord, and all these commandments are to be kept even forever. But everybody is hearing the Lord speak these commandments now. Skip down to verse 18 and look at the reaction. Go ahead and read.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
So they saw, as the Lord was speaking these commandments, you had lightning and thundering and thick darkness and trumpets blowing. The people got scared, ran away from the mountain and stood in the distance. And what they say to Moses, go ahead and read.
And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear.
And we will hear. If you speak with us, go ahead and read.
But let not God speak with us, lest we die.
Oh, don't let God speak with us, lest we die. So they didn't want God. In other words, Moses, you go see what God wants, and you come tell us what he said, because we don't want to hear God speak. What Moses say to him? Go ahead.
And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
He said, hey, fear not. He said the Lord wants you to be scared of him. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. He wants you to be afraid so that you sin not. You don't break these commandments, because when you break the commandments, that's sin. I don't want you to do that. So the Lord wants you to be scared. The Lord actually accomplished what he wanted. Go ahead and read.
And the people stood afar off. And Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was.
So Moses went over there to God to get the rest of the conversation that God wanted to say to the people when they ran off and said, Moses, you speak to God and tell us what God said now. And Moses went to get the word from the Lord. And what the Lord say to Moses? Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven.
The Lord said, you seen that I talked with you from heaven. Tell Israel that. But so now they know when Moses come back and tell them what he said, Moses just didn't come and make up anything, because they know that God speak. They heard his voice themselves. And Moses come back and he tell the people the rest of the conversation, his statutes and his judgment, in addition to the commandments that he spoke to the entire nation. 24:3. Go ahead and read.
24:3. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgment. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said will we do.
They said in one voice, all that the Lord have said we will do. Now they said we will hear. Now they saying we will do. Now here it is. Go ahead and read.
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning and builded an altar under the hill and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Now Moses built an altar. Look like he finna do sacrifice. You don't build no altar unless you finna do sacrifice. Go ahead and read.
And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord.
Go ahead and read.
And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Go ahead and read.
And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said.
And they said what? Go ahead and read.
All that the Lord has said will we do and be obedient.
Now they said we will hear, we will do, we will be obedient. It's the third time they saying that we going to do what God said he going to do. What he told us to do. What Moses do now? Go ahead and read.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words.
Oh, he said, and then he sprinkled the people with the blood. He said, behold, the blood of the covenant which God hath made with you concerning all of these words. So the testament or the covenant or the agreement that Jesus was at the Passover with his apostles saying that he's going to make new was everything to do with the covenant that was made between God and Israel. God and Israel. Why he had to make it new? Because Israel broke the covenant. Israel broke it. Let's go into Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. And the Lord was telling you that he was going to come and make a new covenant even before Mary was even born. Jeremiah 31 and verse 31. Go ahead and read it.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Same people he made the first covenant with. He said a new covenant with them. But he ain't going to do it the same way he did it then in the mountain. Go ahead and read.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt.
I ain't going to do it like that. Go ahead and read.
Which my covenant they break.
Oh, they broke the covenant. They did break it. Go ahead and read.
Although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord.
He said, I was a husband unto them. When they said we will be obedient, that's just like marriage vows. Man say, would you take this lawfully wedded woman? Would you take this lawfully wedded wife? Love and charity. You say, I do. That is vows. He said, and they cheated on the Lord. He said, I was a husband to him. Go ahead and read.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel.
What is the covenant now? Is he going to take the law away? That's what they broke. That's what the covenant was all about, or the agreement, or the testament. Go ahead and read.
After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts.
Oh, go ahead and read.
And write it in their hearts. And will be their God. And they shall be my people.
He said, no, I'm not going to have you to write it on the doorpost. I'm not going to have you to put it on the fringes of your garment, because if you ain't got your garment on, you forget the law. I'm not going to put it on a stone and write it with my finger. They got broke by Moses. They got broke. So I'm going to put it in your inward parts. This your mind, brothers and sisters. That's what he's talking about. I'm going to write them in your heart. That's your mind. And he said, they all shall know me. Go ahead and read.
And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them.
He said they shall all know me. I ain't going to have to teach you, know the Lord. Know the Lord, brother and sister. Why? Not because they shall all know me from the least unto the greatest of them. Why? He said, because I'm going to put the law in your mind now. Now you know exactly automatically what wrong is. There is no excuse. Now you are held up accountable because I put the law in your mind now. I ain't put it on the doorpost now. You gone from the doorpost, you forget what the law is. And he said, look, you going to be my people and I'm going to be a God. Go ahead and read.
Saith the Lord, for I will forgive their iniquity and I will remember their sin no more.
I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sins no more just because he put the law in your mind? No, brothers and sisters. The iniquity and the sin that he's talking about is that sin that started all the way back from Adam that passed upon all men and the entire creation, which caused us all sinners and which caused us all to die. That's what the Lord is going to purge. That's what he was talking about dealing with. Let's go into Isaiah, the 59th chapter. The Lord was talking about doing this a long time ago, way before Jesus had even been born, brothers and sisters. It was talked about. Isaiah 59, and start reading at verse 13. 59 and 13. Go ahead and read.
In transgressing and lying against the Lord and departing away from our God, speaking oppression and revolt, conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood.
That's how we transgress. That's how we broke the law and transgressing and lying against the Lord, like eating anything and praying over God gonna bless it. The Lord gave you a dietary law. Those are words of falsehood. The Lord done changed his 7-day Sabbath to the first day, Son's day. That's words of falsehood. That's lying. The Lord says 7, and he don't change. He changed not. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Skip down to verse 15. Go ahead and read.
Yeah. Truth faileth. And he that departeth from evil maketh himself a prey.
He truth faileth, and he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. So the one that depart himself from evil and say, I'm going to keep the law, I'm going to do the right thing, all of a sudden you got wicked people coming at them. Oh, you ain't got to keep the law no more. Oh, they trying to get you cut off from God. But don't the Lord see this with these wicked people coming at his servants like that? Go ahead and read.
And the Lord saw it.
Oh, he did see it. Go ahead and read.
And it displeased him that there was no judgment.
It displeased them that there was no judgment, but the Lord is the judge. Why can't the Lord do something about it? Why can't he do something to these people? Because the law ain't in their mind right now at this time. It's not in their mind. That's why he said, I'm going to make a new covenant, a new testament. I'm going to put the law in their mind and in their heart so I can deal with them then. Now they're held accountable for it. And the Lord is looking at this thing. Go ahead and read.
And he saw that there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor.
He's wondered. There's no intercessor. That's one that's going in between with you and God. Go ahead and read.
Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him. And his righteousness, it sustained him.
But sustained him. So he said, I got to go down there and do it myself. He saw that there was no man. There was no man to fix this thing or make judgment because the truth done failed. So the Lord got to come down here, and when he come, he said, I got to do it myself, and he got geared up. Go ahead and read.
For he put on righteousness as a breastplate.
I'm going to come and I'm going to keep the law and show you that you can live forever by keeping the law. Think not that I've come to destroy it. I'm going to show you that the law is to be kept and you can get eternal life from keeping it. He put on righteousness as a breastplate. Go ahead and read.
And an helmet of salvation
Go ahead.
Upon his head.
I'm going to bring these people back. Go ahead and read.
And he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing. And was clad with zeal as a cloak.
Because he's going to come and he's going to be successful with what he's doing when he come on this earth and to bring and put this law in this man's mind. And when he came, his first stop, where? Verse 20, read that.
And the Redeemer shall come to Zion.
Why?
And unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob.
And from them that turn from transgression in Jacob, or Israel, brothers and sisters, because that's who he made the first testament with, or the first covenant, or the first agreement with concerning the commandments. He gonna come from them that turn from transgression, because he's coming to rescue them. He got all these wicked people coming at his service trying to get them cut off from him and separating them from him and from his law. So he said, I'm going to come to Zion and I'm going to rescue. I'm going to come and do this. Hebrews, the 9th chapter, the Lord he was showing you a preview of what he was going to do concerning that sin all the way back from Adam that passed upon us that we didn't have nothing to do with.
Yes, sir.
Because the whole creation was under a death sentence. We was fresh from the womb, went right into the grave. The whole creation was cut off. Hebrews, the 9th chapter, before Jesus had come. Hebrews 9 and verse 18. Go ahead and read.
Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood.
Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. But what was sprinkled in that testament? Go ahead and read.
For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and all the people. He said,
look, where a testament is, he said in the first testament, blood was dedicated or something died. But what died? Blood of calves and goats. He did lambs and oxen. This is what Moses did. Go ahead and read.
Saying, this is the blood of the testament which God hath enjoined unto you.
And we read that. He said that this is the blood of the testament the Lord hath made with you concerning all of these words, his law, his commandments, his statutes, and his judgment, and he sprinkled calves' blood. But the book said a testament is of force after men are dead, not after a goat is dead, after a lamb is gone. But that lamb represented Jesus, brothers and sisters.
That's right.
The blood represented his blood. His blood is more precious than anything. Go ahead and read.
Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry.
That's the ministry of animal sacrifice. Go ahead and read.
And almost all things are by the law purged with blood. And without shedding of blood is no remission.
Almost all things are by law purged with blood. So anytime something dies, anytime something sins, something has to die.
That's right.
Blood has to be shed, and without the shedding of blood, your sin is still there.
That's right.
Your sin is still there, brothers and sisters. But Moses sprinkled animal blood. He sprinkled animal blood.
That's right.
That wasn't going to do nothing for you. That first of all didn't purge this man from the sin for all the way back from Adam, and it didn't put the testament into effect. He said this is what joined you with you and God, but it didn't do anything. Let me show you why. Hebrews 10 and 4. Read that.
For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats shall take away sin.
It is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats could take away sin, but the blood of Jesus could. The blood of Jesus could, brothers and sisters. So why did Moses sprinkle calf blood? Why did he do oxen and sacrifice all that and sprinkle the people that said this is the blood of the testament? Because the Lord had you to do that. The Lord commanded us to do that. It was a law that we had to. Leviticus, the 4th chapter. Let's look at it. Leviticus 4 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them.
He said, Moses, if anybody break these commandments and do what should not be done, anybody break this in ignorance now, that means by accident, because that's the only thing that the Lord is concerned with is sin an accident. Go ahead and read.
If the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people.
Because the priest can sin too. Go ahead and read.
Then let him bring for his sin, which he hath sinned, a young bullock without blemish unto the Lord for a sin offering.
So an individual or the priest, if they sinned and broke the commandments, they had to take a bullock and bring it to the Lord. of the tabernacle. What they going to do with this bullock? Go ahead and read.
And he shall bring the bullock unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head and kill the bullock before the Lord.
You mean when you broke the law, broke the commandments, you sinned. All you had to do was go get a bullock and kill it before the Lord. Go ahead and read.
And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation.
Go ahead.
And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before the Lord, before the veil of the sanctuary.
That's the veil the Lord has set up for animal sacrifice. And guess what? You was forgiven for your sin as supposed when you sprinkled that blood on that sanctuary. But the blood of the bull and goats could not take away sin. We read that. He could not take away sin. So being that Moses sprinkled blood, that didn't do anything. The priest was sprinkling blood for sin that didn't do anything. Then why would God have you to do something that didn't make sense for you, that couldn't do nothing for you and remove your sin? We're going to show you why. Romans the 5th chapter. Romans the 5th chapter. Yep, Romans the 5th chapter. The Lord was letting you know he was doing something here. And this is what people don't understand. When the Lord had you to sacrifice an animal, that was for a act. The Lord was showing mercy. He was showing mercy and long suffering. Romans 5 and verse 19. Go ahead and read.
For as by one man's disobedience, many were made sinners.
That's Adam. By one man's disobedience, many were made sinners. Go ahead and read.
So by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous.
And this obedient one is Jesus, brothers and sisters, made righteous. The Lord reversed that thing. But go ahead and read.
Moreover, the law entered that the offense might abound.
The law entered that the offense might abound. What does abound mean? Abound means to stay there or stick around. He said the law entered that the offense might abound. Now, this law that entered is not the commandments, brothers and sisters. This is the law of animal sacrifice. The law of animal sacrifice. Why? Because man, he said the offense. What was the offense? Sin. Therefore, the wages of sin is death. Death was on his way to kill you, and the Lord added animal sacrifice in the midst of it. Represented Jesus putting himself in front of death and allowed death to have dominion over him for 3 days and 3 nights, brothers and sisters. And once it killed Jesus, Jesus rose again, and death was still on his way to you. But by the time it got to you, his blood covered you, and the death passed over you. So he said, the law entered that the sin might abound. So it was like life support when the Lord added animal sacrifice. When someone is dying, they put them on life support to keep them alive.
That's right.
So he just kept you alive by having you to kill an innocent bullock and a goat. But that wasn't doing nothing for you. Only the blood of Jesus was what's going to make the atonement for you and for this man. Go ahead and read.
But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound.
That's the free gift for what the Lord did. Go ahead and read.
That as sin hath reigned unto death, even so might grace reign through righteousness.
That's right. That is right. Let's go to Isaiah the 53rd chapter. Isaiah the 53rd chapter. Because the Lord was talking about doing this long before he had even came in the flesh. I'm going to make a new covenant. I'm going to put this law in this man's mind. Isaiah the 53rd chapter and verse 4. Isaiah 53 and 4. Go ahead and read.
Surely he hath borne our grief.
That's Jesus. He borne our grief.
And carried our sorrows.
He carried our sorrows.
Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted.
So God is the one that stricken him and afflicted him. God is the one that did this. This is what people don't consider. He did this to Jesus. Go ahead and read.
But he was wounded for our transgressions.
But he was wounded for what we did. We was the sinners. Jesus didn't have no sin. That's why that lamb that you got that had no blemishes, it had to be perfect. He was sinless. He didn't have no sin, and he was wounded for what we did. He suffered for what we did. Go ahead and read.
He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. And with his stripes, we are healed.
We can only benefit by him suffering and by him being killed and by him dying. Period. No way else. Skip down to verse 10 and read.
Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him.
Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. All this bruising and beating and punching and kicking and being spit on and humiliated with Jesus being bruised. You ever seen the movie that Passion of Christ? And they tried to show you what they did to Jesus. It couldn't compare to what happened to Jesus. in real life. And you got the Father that's pleased. He got a smile on his face with all this that's going on with Jesus. Why? Go ahead and read.
He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin.
That's why he was happy. That's why he was pleased, because he made his body an offering for sin. Why? Because the blood of bulls and goats could not be an offering for sin, because he couldn't take it away. So he had found something that could make atonement for this man. Because anytime something has to die. He said, without shedding the blood is no remission. In the blood of bulls and goats, it was not good enough. In fact, it's impossible to do it. So being that the Father made Jesus an offering for the sin that passed upon us all the way from Adam, and we were all cut off to eternal damnation, this makes Jesus this. 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. Go ahead and read it.
1 Corinthians 5 and 7.
1 Corinthians 5 and 7.
Purge out, therefore, the old leaven.
Purge out that old sin, because that's what leaven represents. That sin. That's why you had to have the Passover with unleavened bread. Go ahead and read.
That ye may be a new lump.
So you can be a new lump, have a new way of thinking, and understand what the price that Jesus have paid. Go ahead and read.
As ye were unleavened.
As you are unleavened, or as you are without sin. And how did you become that? Go ahead and read.
For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us.
For even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Jesus is the Passover, brothers and sisters. Jesus is the Passover. He is our That lamb in Egypt represents him. The blood represents him. But guess what? Jesus is not finna keep on dying over and over again like you did with that law that entered, which was the law of animal sacrifice. Hebrews 9 and 26. He's not going to keep doing that. Why not? Go ahead and read.
For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world.
Because Jesus was slain from the foundation, when he had to get beat and punched and spit on and humiliated every year. The Lord ain't finna keep doing that. Why is it? In fact, it's impossible for him to do that. Go ahead and read.
But now, once in the end of the world, hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself.
He would appear to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. You read verse 27:7.
And as it appointed unto men once to die.
It's appointed to men once to die. So man can't keep dying over and over again like you did the bullock. Remember, he said you bring the bullock before the Lord and kill the bullock, and the priest sprinkle the blood. You can go and sin some more. All I got to do is go get a bullock. But the Lord ain't going to keep doing that. He was just showing you what he was actually going to do, and how, the purging of what he was actually going to do, and covering out the sin that passed on us. Brothers and sisters, that's what he was doing. He was showing us beforehand of what he was going to do. Because the whole creation was under a death sentence a long time ago. So now only does this make Jesus the Passover. He is our Passover, but he's also the priest as well. Because that priest represented him. That went in the tabernacle and sprinkled that blood. That represented him going into heaven. All of that was just a figure of what Jesus was going to accomplish literally, okay? Hebrews 4 and verse 14. How is Jesus a high priest? Hebrews 4 and 14. Go ahead and read.
Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God.
So Jesus is a high priest. We have a high priest that is passed into heaven. Because that's what that priest represented when he went into that tabernacle. It represented him going before God because you needed an intercessor. Remember, Jesus looked and said, he saw there was no intercessor. There was no judgment. There was no man. And this man sinned. So the only thing that can resolve sin for what this man have done is for man to die. That's why he told you a testament is a force after men are dead. Animals couldn't do anything. And people don't understand that the law that the Lord added was the law of animal sacrifice. That's the law that he took away. And he took that away in Matthew the 27th chapter when the veil of the temple ripped from top to bottom. So he terminated animal sacrifice. Let's go into Hebrews the 5th chapter, Hebrews 5 and verse 4. How did Jesus just make himself a high priest? Or did he? Go ahead and read.
And no man taketh this honor unto himself.
No man taketh this honor unto himself, brothers and sisters. Don't no man do that. Go ahead and read.
But he that is called of God, as was Aaron.
But he that is called of God, as was Aaron. Because God told Moses, make Aaron the priest of the tribe of Levi. And if anybody else, and only his sons can be priests, anybody else tried, they be killed. So God, and Moses didn't take it upon himself and say, Aaron, I'm going to make you priest. God said, Moses, make Aaron high priest. So no man take this honor upon himself. Go ahead and read.
So also Christ glorified not himself to be made an high priest.
So Jesus didn't make himself a high priest and say, I'm the high priest. He didn't make himself a high priest. He said, the Lord does that. The Lord made him the high priest. Go ahead and read.
But he that said unto him,
which is the Father, what did he say to Jesus? Go ahead and read.
Thou art my son. Today have I begotten thee.
Thou art my son. Today I have begotten thee. And he being that he said, we have a high priest that is passed into heaven. Now to appear to God and for us, he didn't become the high priest until he raised from the grave. Because that's what he did. He stopped being God. He became man, died for this man, and then he went back and he sits on the right hand of the Father and he intercedes for this man for sin that is done in ignorance. In ignorance. Genesis, the 14th chapter. Because he said, did you finish reading that?
No, I didn't. Actually.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and read some more of that.
Let me get back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we came down to verse 6 and read that. Sorry.
All right.
Hebrews 5 and verse 6.
As he saith also in another place, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
Oh, he said in another place, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Now, the Father said that to Jesus. First of all, he made him a high priest. Because Jesus didn't take him upon himself to make himself a high priest. Then the Father said, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Who is Melchizedek? Let's see who Melchizedek is. Let's go into Hebrews, the 5th chapter.
Hebrews the 5th or
Genesis 14 chapter. Genesis the 14th chapter. Because this is when Abraham came back from the slaughter of these kings that went and sacked these other kings of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they went and took all these kings' people, they took their goods and they went away. But what they did was they took Lot. Lot lived down in Sodom and Lot was Abraham's nephew. And so that's why Abraham got involved and he got his trained servants and he went down there and he pursued these kings and he slaughtered these kings, and he got back everything they took away, even his son Lot and everything they took of his nephew. He came back with everything, but then when he was on his way back, you had the kings that went out there to meet him on his way back. Verse 17, Genesis 14 and 17. Go ahead.
And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Sheva, which is the king's dale.
So they went out to meet him, and another king went out to meet him. Go ahead and read.
And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. And he was the priest of the Most High God.
Oh, and he was the priest of the Most High God, but he brought forth bread and wine. Ain't that something? Didn't Jesus bring forth bread and wine at the Passover?
Yes, he did.
He said, this priest brought forth bread and wine. What did he say to Abraham? Go ahead
and he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God.
Go ahead.
Possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God.
He blessed God. Go ahead and read.
Which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all.
Abraham gave him tithes of all. Gave him tithes of everything that he got. He gave it to Melchizedek. And Melchizedek was the priest of the Most High God. But then Jesus is a priest. Didn't the Lord say he made Jesus a priest after the order of Melchizedek?
Yes, sir.
So let's go into Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Hebrews, the 7th chapter, because Paul is going to make some things that we need to really look at and some good considerations. Hebrews, the 7th chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Hebrews 7 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him.
We read that, didn't we? In Genesis, the 14th chapter, he met Abraham, he blessed him, and he blessed God. Go ahead and read.
To whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all. First being by interpretation, king of righteousness. And after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace.
Oh, so you mean Melchizedek was king of peace? But I thought Jesus was king of peace. And being that but go ahead and read some more. Because we need to do some background on this Melchizedek. We know Jesus is a made up priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. And we know that Jesus is king of peace, but he just said Melchizedek is king of peace. So let's do a background check on this Melchizedek. Read.
3. without father, without mother,
Go ahead.
without descent, having neither beginning of days,
Wait a minute. Go ahead and read.
nor end of life.
Wait a minute. How can we do a background check on somebody with the background like this? No beginning of days, no end of life, no descent. No father, no mother. Where did he come from? Go ahead and read.
But made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually.
But made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. So wait a minute. The Lord said that Jesus is a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, and Melchizedek is a priest like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. So if he's continually and Jesus is forever, how could Jesus even replace him? Or how is that? Skip down to verse 14 and look at something we need to consider. Go ahead and read.
For it is evident.
Go ahead and read.
That our Lord sprang out of Judah.
Jesus came out of the tribe of Judah, which was Israel's fourth son. And the Lord said only Levi of the sons of Aaron could be priests. And it is evident that Jesus came out of Judah because he was king of the Jews. He was called a Jew. That's where Jew come from, Israel's fourth son, Judah. But the Lord said only Levi, Israel's third son, can be the priest. Go ahead and read.
Of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood.
He didn't say anybody. In fact, he said anybody outside of Levi was going to be killed if they try to be priests. Only the tribe of Levi. Judah couldn't. So how can Jesus be made a priest? It is evident, brothers and sisters, that Melchizedek and Jesus is the same, one and the same, brothers and sisters. That's why they have the same title. That's why they have the same behavior. Melchizedek met Abraham with bread and wine. Jesus at the Passover, bread and wine, not lamb and blood.
Yes, sir.
Because he's made a priest after order of Melchizedek who has endless life. The Lord is about life. He's not about death. And he came to give this man life again because we died. Now let's look at the ordinance of the Passover. Let's go into Exodus, the 12th chapter. Exodus 12 and verse 43. 12 and 43. 12 and 43. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover.
This is the ordinance of the Passover. Go ahead and read.
There shall no stranger eat thereof.
Go ahead and read.
But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
Then shall he. But every man's servant is brought for money. When thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. But wait a minute. We found out that Jesus is the Passover. So if you're not circumcised, then you can't eat of Jesus. You can't even take part in him. Skip down to verse 48 and read.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord.
He said, when the stranger shall sojourn among you, because he said no stranger shall eat of the Passover, but if he sojourn among you and he want to deal with the Passover, go ahead and read.
Let all his males be circumcised.
Let all his males be circumcised. He can't just be circumcised only. All his males got to be circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And then let him come near and keep it.
And then let him come near and keep it. He can't have part in the Passover if he ain't circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And he shall be as one that is born in the land.
Go ahead and read.
For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
And he shall be just like one born in the land. So that means Israel got to be circumcised before they take of the Passover. And the stranger and those that sojourn among Israel have to be circumcised to take of Jesus, brothers and sisters, because Jesus is the Passover. Go ahead and read.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you.
One law for all. One law. Circumcised, then Passover. Israel, circumcised, stranger first, then Passover. You got circumcised first. Go ahead and read.
Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they.
So did they. So being that you got to get circumcised before you take of the Passover, why is it that before God told Israel to even take a lamb and put him up on the 10th day, why didn't he give them the ordinance of the Passover before he even told them to put a lamb up? He did tell them that long time ago. Let's go into Genesis, the 17th chapter. Genesis, the 17th chapter. It was a long time ago. The Lord been gave the circumcision. Genesis, the 17th chapter and verse 9. 17 and verse 9. Go ahead and read.
And God said unto Abraham,
This is Abraham. What did he say to him?
Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore.
Who?
Thou and thy seed after thee in their generation.
He said, God said to Abraham, you shall keep my covenant, you and thy seed after thee in their generations. Don't you know Abraham is the father of Isaac? Isaac is the father of Jacob. Jacob is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, of whom the Lord instituted the Passover with. The Lord is not talking about no Passover here with Abraham. Go ahead and read.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep.
This is the covenant that you're going to keep. You, Abraham, and your generation, and in their generations after thee. Go ahead and read.
Between me and you, and thy seed after thee.
Go ahead.
Every man, child among you, shall be circumcised.
Every man child, not woman, not female, every male, every man child shall be circumcised among you. Go ahead and read.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
Here's a covenant. He said you should be circumcised the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant. A token of the covenant. That's an agreement. The Lord told Abraham, guess what? Get circumcised, and then you're going to have a son, and I'm going to establish this covenant with your son, your seed after him. And Jesus is Abraham's seed, brothers and sisters. Yes, he said, I'm going to confirm it with him. Abraham will have a child. He got circumcised. Every man got to be circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
So he gave it to the stranger even when he gave it to Abraham and those that sojourn among them. He gave it to Abraham and he told him in his seed after him. And those which are not of your seed, they got to be circumcised. Go ahead and read.
He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised.
He that is born in your house and he that is bought with money, they must needs be circumcised, brothers and sisters. Circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And my covenant shall be in your flesh.
How long?
For an everlasting covenant.
For an everlasting covenant. Forever don't lay. So in order for you to take the Passover, you got to get circumcised first. That is the Lord's covenant. That is his, and what did he say? What the Lord say? This ain't Abraham talking. This the Lord said. Go ahead and read.
And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised.
And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, because the Lord told you the flesh profits you nothing. Go ahead and read.
That soul shall be cut off from his people.
That soul shall be cut off from his people. God said this. This is Jesus talking here, brothers and sisters. You ain't never heard the Father. This is Jesus talking. That soul shall be cut off from his people. Who said that?
He hath broken my covenant.
The Lord. He said he have broken my covenant. This is the Lord's covenant. Just as like this is the Lord's Passover. And let's see if Abraham believed God. Skip down to verse 23 and read that. Read verse 23.
And Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with this money.
Go ahead.
Every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day as God had said unto him.
In the selfsame day. Same as Israel did in the selfsame day when they was brought out of Egypt, brothers and sisters. Because when they took that blood, the Lord told you that flesh, burn it. I don't want any of it left. And that blood, I want you to put on the doorpost on your side post. And when I see the blood representing his word, and when I see that word of my house, of the door, I'm going to pass over that house. Because you have faith in my word, because you acted on it. Your action showed that you feared me and you put it there. The same action that Abraham had with the covenant of the circumcision. So you cannot take of the Passover until you are circumcised. And Jesus is the Passover. I hope someone was able to get a clear understanding of the Passover, brothers and sisters. Thank you for tuning in.